Mr. President, I just got back from my home state of Minnesota, and let me tell you, the price of gas is not just one of the issues that people are talking about, it is the issue that they are talking about. In this last week, as we all know, gas prices have risen above $4 a gallon as a national average, and the people in their country, many of them can't afford it. If you drive past a Costco store, I am a Costco member, Mr. President, if you drive past a Costco store, you see in the Twin Cities that you see cars lining the block trying to get in just to save a few pennies, just to save a few nickels, just to save some money. Those gas lines remind you of the OPEC oil embargo that we haven't seen since the 1970s. And if you talk to people in the rural parts of our state, you'll be shocked at their out-of-pocket expenses. They have longer way to drive to work. With gas at $4 a gallon, some Minnesotans are spending $20 a day just to get to work in the morning and to get home again at night. As you know from your home state of Colorado, some areas there's not going to be able to be a lot of mass transit. In some areas they just have to drive longer to get to work. Families cannot afford these prices. Just a few weeks ago, we saw stories in the paper saying that consumers weren't changing their driving patterns, that they were comfortable with their commuting habits, and that they were willing to pay a few dollars extra each week. Well, $4 gas has changed all that. 1 in 12 Americans now have found a new way to go to work because they can't afford week after week of these gas prices. And we need more mass transit. I support that. That's a good thing. But we know that for many Americans, in the end, who have less income, who are dealing with the problems of increased health care costs, who are dealing with the problems, dealing with the issues of having...
order in the Senate so that the senator from Minnesota may be heard. Will the senators suspend their conversations, take them off the floor? The senator from Minnesota may proceed.
Thank you. People are dealing with increased health care costs, increased costs of food, and now these gas prices up at $4 a gallon. When you've got less money in your pocket, when you've got less disposable income, it's harder for you to afford. We just cannot continue and can only afford to fill half their tank with gas. We just can't afford to keep going. And that's why I am so shocked when I've seen what the other side has done. Time and time again, same old arguments. Well, I'll tell you this, these same old ideas, they are running on empty. Just as the people in this country are running on empty, the other side, who has blocked consideration of some new ideas, a new way to go forward with energy, with both some short-term and some long-term relief for the people of this country. I say this to my colleagues that voted against that bill, that voted against allowing us to debate, allowing us to move forward with a new energy future. They are running on empty, and the American people know it. Now, you remember back when President Bush was asked about $4 a gallon gas on February 28th, the president said, and I quote, "You're predicting $4 a gallon gasoline. That's interesting. I hadn't heard that." Well, for the people of my state, $4 a gallon gasoline isn't interesting. It's a budget buster. The fact of the matter is that this administration has failed to provide Americans with a meaningful energy policy that would provide relief from high gas and energy prices. They've been running on empty. This is why I am so frustrated that our colleagues blocked consideration of this important bill. We're not proposing anything radical here. We're simply asking that the government enforce the laws on the books and make the marketplace work like it's supposed to. Like you, Mr. Presiding Officer, I come from a prosecutor background. And I know that you can have all the laws on the books, but if you don't enforce them, you're not going to get the relief you need. You're not going to help victims, or in this case, consumers, if there's no cops on the beat, no one's out there enforcing the laws, no one's out there drawing the line. As a first step with this important bill that the other side blocked us from even considering, from even debating, we want federal regulators to have the tools to do their job, to crack down on speculation in the futures market and on speculators who trade in places, in offshore exchanges, just in order to avoid regulation. We want the Attorney General to have the authority to prosecute collusion by foreign governments. You've heard the witnesses in recent months that have come before multiple committees in Congress. The CEO of the oil company, they said, you know what? Barrel oil shouldn't cost over $100. Barrel oil should cost somewhere between $55 and $60. That's the true cost. You heard the witness in just recent months who described our energy markets as a giant gambling hall without rules, as a superhighway without a traffic cop. That's what we're dealing with here. So we need a cop on the beat. The Consumer First Energy Act gives us that cop on the beat. It addresses the problem of market speculation by stopping traders from routing transactions through offshore markets in order to get around the limits on speculation put in place by U.S. regulators. Why would they go to these offshore markets? We know why they're going there, because they want to avoid any regulation in this country. In fact, you don't even have to go offshore to find unregulated energy trading. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission is allowing the Dubai Exchange in New York and the ICE Electronic Exchange in Atlanta to trade in U.S. oil futures without federal oversight. I can't tell my constituents to rest easy because the Dubai Financial Services Authority is looking out for their interests. We need to take action not only by regulating these offshore markets, but also by making sure what's going on in this country is right. And we closed the Enron loophole. We tried to do that with the Farm Bill, Mr. President, but there's clearly a lot more that needs to be done.